Hello everyone, welcome back to your AP World History Essay Writing DBQ essay format video lesson. Okay, let's go on to the format of your essay, how to develop this essay. And I'm going to go through this with you basically paragraph by paragraph, almost sentence by sentence. Okay, in your first paragraph, this of course is your introduction. And the first 3 to 4 sentences should be your context. Remember when we went over the DBQ points video lesson, the first point was contextualization. That's the same thing as context. Remember, this places your thesis and your prompt within its larger global historical context, and they must connect together. This is your place, your setting, your time. It's very important to go into specific detail in those 3 or 4 sentences when developing your context. You need key terms, key places, major developments, processes, any historical events, all within these 3 or 4 sentences. You must be specific. Next is your thesis. The thesis addresses all parts of the question and stays within a specified time period, and that is given to you in your prompt. You must take a position. There's no maybe, probably, or it might. Take a position, pick a side, and stick with it. Remember from the previous lesson, I explained that you must have 3 answers, and that's given in 3 sentences. Your thesis is the answer to the question. That's the answer to the prompt. Like I said, provide 3 specific answers. Remember, you're writing an essay, not telling a story. Then the next portion of your introduction is the argument development. This is the organizational path of the essay. You must explain connections between your answers. If you think of it this way, your 3 answers all answer the same question. There is a connection between all 3 of those. You have to explain those connections after you tell us what the thesis is. So and you need to do this for each of your 3 answers. So you're looking at approximately a 9-sentence introduction paragraph. And I've designed it this way, so in theory you have a potential of getting 3 points out of your 7 within that first paragraph. Again, your context must be specific. You must include the time and the place, and most importantly, key terms, key events, key ideas, key processes, key developments within your situation. Your thesis addresses all parts of the question, which means if it asks for similarities and differences, then you must give at least 1 similarity, at least 1 difference, and then for your third answer that I require, it can be either one. If it just asks for similarities, then you would give 3 similarities. And please keep in mind, when it says compare, that typically means similarities and differences. The word contrast does not always have to be part of the prompt. If it asks for cause and effect, then you must provide at least 1 of each, and then your third answer can be of your choosing. So when I say address all parts of the question, that's what I'm talking about. Okay? And again, your argument development, this is how you're able to develop that complex understanding for your thesis, which will then be laid out in your essay. The argument development is very important. Okay, so whatever 3 answers you come up with, if you can explain a connection between the 3, that's your argument development. And each of these segments must be part of your introduction. Okay, for paragraph 2, remember the introduction is paragraph 1. For paragraph 2, this is the first answer that you present in the thesis. Whatever order your answers are in your thesis, that's the order of your body paragraphs. So our first answer is paragraph 2, and you must have a topic sentence. This is simply where you introduce your first answer by connecting it to the rest of your thesis and the prompt. You can use the exact same sentence that you used in the introduction when you introduced your thesis, or you can use the sentence in your argument development. Chances are the sentence that you used in your thesis is a much better topic sentence, But if you don't have a topic sentence, then the rest of this part of the paragraph, the evidence, the outside evidence, and the analysis, you won't get credit for because there's no answer for that information to be applied to. The topic sentence is your answer. I know many of you in English like to say, well, I need a transition. You don't need a transition if you have a topic sentence. This is where you're telling the reader, this is what this paragraph will be about. You must have the topic sentence. Next is your evidence. This must be specific. And remember the DBQ prompt that we had where you were analyzing the attitudes of groups or individuals towards outsiders. So here, where it says factors or causes, right, this is where you're explaining that from the documents. You need at least 3 documents to support this first answer. You want to take the information from the document that supports your answer and explain it in your own words. Then you need to use parenthetical documentation. Parenthetical documentation simply means that at the end of that sentence, in parentheses, you would put, for example, out of the 7, let's say documents 1, 3, and 7, you're going to use to support this first answer. And the first sentence for evidence came from document 3. Then at the end of that sentence, where you've explained what's in the document to support your answer, in parentheses, you put doc 3. That way you're citing your reference. That's parenthetical documentation. You don't need any other type of citation or documentation. This helps your reader understand where your evidence came from. The next thing that you need to do is Hippo of the document. And I will explain even more what Hippo of your document is in the Sourcing the Documents video. Remember, Hippo is an acronym for historical context, intended audience, purpose, point of view, and the occasion. It's good to have as many of those 5 in that sentence as possible, but if you can develop at least 3 or 4 from that, then you'll have a really good Hippo statement or a sourcing statement. So essentially what you need from each document is the information from the document that supports your answer, and then the Hippo information that gives good credit to your source. And you must use the same document that you used in the one that you used for evidence. So for example, this first one here, right? This first one, if I'm going to use document 3 there, then my Hippo statement here would be from document 3. Keep the documents and their information together, okay? Then you do that for the other 2 documents that you're going to use. And you can group them in whatever way you deem appropriate in a way that it supports your answer. Remember, the key is that it's evidence. You have to use the information from the documents to prove your thesis. After you have a, a sentence where you've used information from the document for your evidence, and you've done a Hippo statement, and you've done that for 3 documents, which means that's 6 sentences. Next is your outside evidence. Remember, we talked about this in the points video lesson. The specific outside evidence means that it's detailed proof for your thesis that's not found in the documents. That doesn't mean it's outside the time period. That doesn't mean it's outside of the location. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's outside the theme. Outside evidence just means it's not found within the documents. Your evidence must be within the correct time period, and it must be within the correct locations. The last part of your paragraph, your body paragraph, is the analysis. This is where you explain why this answer addresses the prompt by describing the impact of this answer. When you can explain why an answer is an answer, then you've properly analyzed that part of your thesis. So essentially, with starting with your topic sentence, you have, here's my answer. And then you have all of this evidence and outside evidence that says, here's proof of my answer. And then you finish your body paragraph with the analysis, which is you explaining why your answer is an answer. And that is a perfect combination for a body paragraph when you're proving an argument in an essay. All right, paragraph 3 is answer 2. Remember, this is the second answer that's presented in your thesis from the introduction. Again, you want to connect it to the thesis and the prompt, and you can use the sentence from your thesis in your introduction for this answer. Of course, you can always reword it, or you can use verbatim what you had in the thesis. But yet again, that topic sentence must be there. If it's not, then your evidence, your outside evidence, and your analysis you will not get credit for because there's no answer for that information to apply to. So you must have a topic sentence. You must introduce that answer as this is what this paragraph will be about. Next is your specific evidence. Now remember, you've already used 3 documents for answer number 1, so use 2 different documents for answer number 2. The format is the same. You must take the content from the document and explain it in your own words using parenthetical documentation. Then you must have a Hippo statement or a sourcing statement of that same document. Here you only need to do 2. That means at this point you will have used 5 of your 7 documents. Remember, you must use all 7 in order to get all of your points for your evidence. So use 2 different documents. Again, the specific outside evidence doesn't change. You must have a specific piece of historical information that proves your answer. And this specific evidence is different from the evidence in the previous paragraph. Again, analysis, explain why this answer addresses the prompt, explain the impact of that answer, explain how this answer is an answer. Paragraph 4, this is your last answer. Again, from your introduction, use this answer by connecting it to the thesis and the question, and you can use it verbatim, what you have in the introduction paragraph, or you can reword it as long as it doesn't change the meaning of your answer and the message you're trying to convey. But again, you must have a topic sentence. Here, you're going to use your last 2 documents, and that will fulfill your 7 document requirement. Again, it must be a specific information from the document explained in your own words, no quoting at any point in your essay, with your parenthetical documentation that shows you understand where this information came from, and then your Hippo statement sourcing your document. Once you do that for your last 2, and each one of these pieces is a separate sentence. Your topic sentence is a sentence all on its own. The explanation information with the document number parenthetical documentation is a sentence. The Hippo of the document is a sentence. The next statement explaining information from another document using parenthetical documentation is another sentence. Then the Hippo or sourcing statement from that document is another sentence. Each one of these is a completely separate sentence. You cannot have 2 sentences you cannot have 1 sentence that will get you credit for 2 points. So each element is its own sentence. Again, you must have specific outside evidence. And I require that you do one for each of your 3 answers for several reasons. 1, it makes your thesis much stronger. 2, if 2 pieces of your specific evidence are incorrect, you could still earn that point because your 3rd one is accurate. And 3, it makes the entire essay itself more valid. Last is your analysis, just like in your previous body paragraphs, where you explain how your answer addresses the prompt, making the connection between your thesis and the impact of that answer. Last is paragraph 5, your conclusion. Start off your conclusion with restating your thesis and try to do this in a new way. Don't just verbatim rewrite your thesis from the introduction. Next, you need to demonstrate a connection. Take the documents that you use as evidence and summarize the analysis statements from your body paragraphs. So these 3 analysis statements that you make at the end of your body paragraphs, each of these 3, summarize that in your conclusion, the second part of your conclusion. And last, explain the importance of understanding the thesis. And that is different than explaining the importance of the thesis. Explain the importance of understanding your answer, understanding your argument. Again, you can do this by reiterating the impact that the thesis had, or explaining the effects that your answer had on later civilizations, or directly with the civilizations that might be presented in your essay. But this is a fantastic way to conclude and finish your DBQ. And that's it. In addition to the format video within the module, I will also include a link to a PDF document that shows an outline of your DBQ essay. And it breaks all of this down, again, paragraph by paragraph, sentence by sentence. One more thing that I want to explain, back up here with your argument development. I forgot to mention this earlier. Again, this is 3 separate sentences where you explain the connections between your answers. It might be easy to take the approach to start your argument development with explaining a connection between your first and your second answer. Then the next sentence in your argument development, you could explain a connection between your second and your third answer. And then the last sentence in your argument development is the connection that you explain between answers 1 and 3. That way you've developed a complex understanding by showing the connections between all of your answers that are presented in your thesis. Again, if you have any questions, please email me. Come by and see me before or after school. I'm in room E19, and I'm definitely here to help. Happy quizzing and good luck.